Hello and welcome to Geekverse Sidequest, your weekly stop for video game news, reviews, and more here on the Geekverse Podcast Network. I'm your host, Dylan Muss. Today I'm joined once again by Travis. You're back again. You're kind of the Sidequest king at this point. How's it feel?
I am. I definitely got to hold the record. I gotta look at the. I know Dante though. He's probably gonna pass me at some point.
Yeah,
but because I'm now it's 3 and whatnot. But I did. People only know this from the visual. I've officially picked my side quest color because for each podcast, you should have a color: red when I'm Marvel Alliance. It's like green and pink when I'm on Geekverse. This is like a blue and a purple. It's kind of like I tried the best to get that GameCube color.
Yeah.
I couldn't exactly achieve it, but this was the closest to. So, and even then, I tried to get something
that
similar
GameCube
to,
color. That's like a copyrighted.
Yeah.
No one can get that Pantone. That's
Yeah.
a special color right there.
Not my digital $25 lights, but I need an official side quest color, and here I am. So I'm happy to be back.
Yeah. Well, shout out to Taylor, who anyone watching on YouTube, he made this. What I just think is a beautiful background. It's also kind of this side quest backdrop behind the consoles and like the podcast thumbnail.
Yeah.
And so like the blue names and whatnot, it all kind of works. But then it also feels like it's very PlayStation focused, which for today is perfect because we have a lot of PlayStation focused topics for today. But yeah, we're here's our run of show for today. So we're gonna first take a look at our video game drafts that we made at the start of January. We have some updates there. So we're going to get some takes there. And then, I've said in the intro, news, reviews, and more. Hasn't really been much news so far the first month. It was really just the Nintendo Direct, but other than that, it's just been reviews. But we actually do have some news today. We're going to talk about a couple of games that got release dates, and then mostly the State of Play that happened last week, which has about like 10 games that happened there. And then, Horizon Forbidden West. We're also, we did a full 3-hour review on that, but we hadn't finished the game yet. So today we're going to kind of finish our thoughts, do some spoiler discussion on the rest of the story. I think it's mostly going to be a story discussion. At least for me, that's most of my notes at this point, because we kind of talked about the gameplay stuff, whatnot. But anyway, that's what you can expect for today. Join our GV Discord to chat with us, live when news is happening, when stuff's dropping, when new games are coming out and all that stuff. Subscribe to the SideQuest feed if you want to get the video game focused content all in one place. That's the place to do that. You'll get SideQuest and Out of Mana, and then if there's other gaming focused content, it'll go there as well. Join our Patreon to get episodes early and ad free. Join the Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that fun stuff for Geekverse. Thanks to Taylor for making the thumbnails in this background. Thank you to Amanda who makes the music. Next week's episode will be with Taylor. We're going to talk about Tunic, and then I think whatever news is popping next week as well. So that should be a fun episode. And then looking at the calendar, I think the week after that will be a review for Kirby, so that'll be fun. Me and Kirkland will be back talking about Kirby, and then I think the week after that is going to be Weird West, which I'm really excited for. Weird West, it's coming to Game Pass, so hopefully more people can check that out.
Okay.
And then we'll take it from there. But that's kind of what we got going on. But any shout outs from your end, Travis?
Oh, I'm trying to think of anything. Not really big. We're in the calm of the storm on the movie TV side because at the end of March, you got to tie it in. You got the Halo show starting, and then you got Moon Knight and then Morbius. So right now, there's just kind of just news, some catch up and stuff. But in April, it's gonna be popping off. But yeah, if you're into video games and you're interested in the Halo show, check out that. I know Dylan's planning to be on a couple of those. I might be on like the debut because I think I'm at least gonna check out episode 1 and see if it hooks me. I might stick with it. If not, because the only reason I want to be on episode 1 is because I've never played Halo, so I feel like it's an interesting perspective. I have nothing to add as far as the games, movies, stuff like that. What's the show like? But just as always, I think probably what we should do, I imagine when we're talking about the Discord, we should probably make a gaming channel. We haven't even done that. We should probably
we should. Hey,
yeah. I don't know why we just haven't thought about that yet, but no, I'm excited. I'm really excited to hear your guys' Kirby review because I won't be getting that right away because as I mentioned on the Elden Ring review, I skipped getting my wrestling game to get Elden Ring, so I think that's next up line. But Kirby, like I'm not like a massive Kirby fan, but anytime you put a game in that type of new setting, it's like, okay, let's see what you got here. So that's one that Nintendo games never go on sale, but maybe the Boxing Day, if it goes on for $10 and you guys liked it, then maybe I'll get it at some point.
Well, I'll probably get that one. In most cases, I think I'm gonna get physical these days, just for the sake of doing so much more stuff, so I can return games even if I liked it, but it's like I'm not gonna play it again, just kind of get some money back. So I'll get that one physical, and you can borrow it whenever I'm in Kelowna again, and then you can play it there.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna start. I think what I'm gonna do is just for big games like Horizon in the future, take off the Friday. And even though I lose those 3 hours of not playing the Thursday, I might do that because like same like I'm almost same with Horizon. Once I beat it, it's like I don't know if I'd ever play it again, and I would return it. Or something like Elden Ring. So I think I might start going back to some physical for some of those games that I'm more on the I don't know if I'm gonna like something like Last of Us 2 that should have taught me. But yeah, I think after Horizon 2, even though you can go back to our initial review, I still really liked it. I think once I am done, I don't know if I will pop it in again, especially with there's so much games coming out.
Yeah, it's true. It's a beautiful time
Yes.
to be talking about games. So yeah, let's get right into the video game draft. A little update on this. So I guess for anyone who missed it, at the start of January, we just me, Travis, Taylor, and Kirkland all picked 5 games that we are just going against each other in the Metacritic scores. Which 5 games are going to be better than the rest? And it's already got complicated. Some delays have happened and whatnot. But essentially, without going through detail like every pick that everyone has done, essentially, here's where we're at is in the placements is in 4th place with 0 points is myself. No games have come out yet for me. I think the closest, like all mine are really far out. The closest one is probably Redfall, which they said summer, but who knows if that'll even happen. But
You
that's
get
kind
that
of where I'm.
Q4 win is what you're looking for. Right?
Yeah.
That last minute home drive.
Yeah, exactly. And then in 3rd place is Taylor, who's got a cool 83 points for Pokemon Legends Arceus. That's one game of his that's come out. And then in 2nd place is you, Travis, with 95 points for Elden Ring. Now, I don't know exactly what platform you picked because Elden Ring varies. It's like some
I picked PC.
Okay, so I think that one's at 95.
Yeah, it is.
And maybe PlayStation's a bit higher, but anyway, around that number. And then, I mean, just mopping up the floor, just sweeping up here is Kirkland, who's had 3 games come out. So he's at a total of 254 points right now between Horizon Forbidden West, Total War Warhammer 3, and Sifu. So, and yeah, Total War and Forbidden West, 86 and 88, so pretty good scores. Sifu and 80 is like a totally solid score as well, but it's just the fact that he picked some games that were coming out soon, which I think is, maybe a great tactic that I might steal next year. But where are you feeling so far?
I'm glad you said that. I feel the exact same way because it's tough, right? I think we'll have to see who the winner is at the end of the year, because if these other later picks work out, but if they get delayed, then I'm definitely in the future trying to get as early as possible, and the later games may be down the way, because I'm the same way with my movie draft. We did I can't remember how many. We did 10 picks. I've lost about 3 of them now, and because like Flash got delayed, Mission Impossible got delayed, and Black Panther might get delayed. So my top 5 picks, I've lost 2 of them, maybe 3. So, and these are movies that, again, I'd think, same thing like these games, something like Taylor's pick, Breath of the Wild 2. That's a great pick if it happens, right? But it's not a for sure thing that's going to happen. So, yeah, that's definitely the other strategy. So I feel, obviously the only game on my list right now is Mario. That is kind of, we'll talk about, I guess, Forspoken, because that was the last time. So, as I look at these notes, releasing May 24th. But
that's changed now.
Yeah, that's October. And obviously that's going to be something we talk about also with Gotham Knights, is that date doesn't make me feel super confident, because that's still... October feels that like, this should be enough time, but if we have to push it again, we can. And so I'm not confident on that. And I know we'll talk about that in the state of play. And so yeah, we'll see.
Well, I was going to look, because you also picked Final Fantasy Strangers of Paradise, which might have reviews out now. Let me check here, because
I know there's been
that
some
comes
trailers,
out like in a couple days.
Like launch trailers, yeah.
So okay, no scores yet, but that'll pop up in a couple days here.
Good.
So I mean, you're in second. You're gonna stay in second, no matter, even if that game gets like a 10 on Metacritic, which I don't think it will. But
no.
It looks like in one day is when scores for that one will be up. So you'll kind of secure your second spot position for a good while there, I think.
Yeah. No. I'm
Lego Star Wars or something.
Yeah, I'm interested with a lot of these other ones to see what happens with, like, especially for you, because you got Ragnarok. I think if you lose that, that's also a big blow and stuff. But we'll see. But it's been fun to watch, and every time there's a delay, like Forspoken, not already because I'm interested in the game and I might play it, but now there's like a double of like, oh no, not only am I not getting it, it's hurting my draft and whatnot. So we'll see. But Kirkland, good strat so far with the early picks. But you know what? I haven't heard a thing about Saints Row in a while, so it's looking good.
Yeah, for some reason I feel pretty solid about that one. Like, I think it'll hit the date. I don't know how it will review, but I mean, at this point, it's like just a game coming out is enough. Like even if it has really low scores. So maybe next year we could like discuss, some tactics of like maybe halfway through the year or something you can
Some changes, yeah.
adjust your list, or if something's like guaranteed to be delayed out of the year, or I don't know, something like that, because it is pretty brutal if you get like one game delayed and someone else just picks games that are coming out in January and February, like that person will probably win just on that alone. So
plus there is games that will probably come up in fall that we maybe had no idea about, right? They might get like a Strikers where it's like announced and it's like, oh, it's just coming right now. So yeah, I'd be down. Now this is not exactly to do with the draft, and this is I guess kind of a news item, but I'm throwing this in because I forgot to put it in the news, but I wanted to because we were talking about Elden Ring and its review scores there. Did you see the story about its sales?
It's selling really well. Is that
yeah? So it was obviously it led the heart, or what was it here? Elden Ring debuted as best selling game in February. Okay, no duh, and then best of 2022. But this launch month sales for Elden Ring were the second highest for any track title release in the past 12 months, trailing only behind Call of Duty Vanguard. That's
huge.
Crazy. Why? Like, obviously, it had. Do you think it's just the hype of just that? Like, that kind of got me right of this game you have to play, but I don't know. It's that a word like there's hype, but that's really impressive to be doing that well.
Yeah, I think it's also just got the word of mouth thing to it. Like obviously the marketing has been there, and the George R. R. Martin thing. Like just that name like draws some people in, but I think it's just like people are just talking about this game. People are talking about their friends about it, convincing their friends about it. It's such a huge game as well, and maybe people want to play co-op with their friends or something. Like it's just. I don't know. I guess I'm not surprised because it was so hyped. But yeah, I think it's been a long time since a game has been that hyped and has lived up to the hype. Because even something like Last of Us Part 2, it seems like that was...
divided a bit.
Yeah, it had more division. Whereas Elden Ring, you have your Carls of the world who maybe aren't a fan. But like, it feels like very few people are strongly against it. Like, yes, people are complaining like, oh, it doesn't have a pause button and little things like that. But it seems like, just in general... people love this game across the board. It's not just the critics; it's also the fans. It's old fans of From games. It's new fans as well. So yeah,
Ring too, baby.
I mean, the fact that it beat Pokemon Legends Arceus is a bit surprising for me, just because Pokemon is ridiculous. Yeah, so that's crazy. I don't think the Horizon one surprises me as much, and also, factoring in that Horizon's just on 2 consoles, whereas Elden Ring's on PC as well and Xbox, so it's just got more places to sell also. Yeah. So I guess that's not terribly surprising.
Yeah, I'm just. It's great for the game. I'm still. I don't have much more to add on. We talked about that before. I'm just enjoying it. For the viewers and listeners, I beat my first big boss, Margaret, and that was something
nice.
else. But yeah, it's been fun. I've taken a little break from this week because I wanted to finish up Horizon, some life stuff. So I'm excited to. In the next few weeks, there've been a couple areas I've got to that definitely feel I don't know if I should be here, but I want to explore them. So it's just it's also a game I'm taking my time with, and it just continues to be great. Anytime I boot it up, I'm having, even if it's a challenging time, a fun time. So I'm just excited to see that it's doing well. And like I said, in years from now, we'll get that sequel, and I'll be back for that because I hope whatever more they do, I like if they at least have some game that keeps this open worldness because I think I really enjoy that. So
yeah, I think they will. And so this was a news thing, but it's also relevant here in that Gotham Knights got a release date of October 25th, as you mentioned. So I don't think they released this alongside a new trailer or anything. No. Like it was just pretty much a Twitter post, as far as I know. Yeah. So yeah, it's coming out October 25th. You seem like maybe not too confident on that. I feel like if they're saying that now, this early. Yeah, it's hard to say. Like so many things can change in the many, many months between then and now. But to me, I feel like okay, that seems pretty solid. Like I think they have a good chance to hit that, but you're not so certain.
Well, the only thing that does help me with it being solid is technically this game never had a date. It was always 2022, and so far they are keeping their word on that. It's just that October, like I said, is that slot that feels in that between of if we do got to push it to March or something, we easily can, right? And because there's a lot of other big games out, you almost won't notice it because like it could go away. But fall is always riddled with huge AAA titles and huge their Call of Duty sports games. Like it's just like once September starts, even end of August, there's so many games. So it's tough. If I had to say if it will make it or not, I actually do think it will, just because, like you said, it's a far out date. And I do think they've kept that date, or they kept the 2022, but They are different studios, so we'll see. But you had Suicide Squad, and then this one. It's just if it was a little earlier, I'd feel a little more confident on it. But I'm hoping it sticks. I'm not a fan of it being on a Tuesday. I thought games were starting to transition to the Friday release, which I like a lot better because I always hated as a kid games coming out Tuesday. You get to play them a little bit, and you still out Wednesday, Thursday, and it's like, oh, the weekend so far. Where the Friday, either it's like, well, I can play it, and then the weekend's here, or I could maybe take the Friday off or something. I'm not going to take a random Tuesday off because this is a game. Yeah, this is a game that I'm very, very much looking forward to because of not only I'm being a Batman guy, but I'm just looking forward to seeing what they do with the dynamic of the 4 squads, and I like the 2-player aspect. So if I have to say, I think it will hit that date, but it's still I'm not holding my breath. I'm not for sure until it goes gold, thinking, oh, I'm playing Gotham Knights October 25th. I'm hoping to, but not for sure.
Yeah, and that time's a tricky time too, because so many other games usually come out there, and if Starfield sticks, it's a couple weeks later, so there would be some time that I could play it, but there's also just bound to be so many other things coming out then, so it's a risky time, but good, they get their date out there early, so maybe other people see that, other studios will see that and then push their game before or afterwards so that they can stay away from it. Not that it's like some big monolithic game that's going to crush you, but if you have the time, why not release a week before Gotham Knights and give it that space? So I think that's a good time for it so far. There's just not too much in October that we know of. So
and I think that if it does stay, I think it is a great Christmas game of potential parents buying it for kids and everything
Co-op
like that.
and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I think you'll have that type of feel with it of, when people don't know, I don't know what Elden Rings, I don't know what that is. Oh, my kid likes Batman, or they like superheroes. Here you go. So I think if they could get out before Christmas, that would really, really help their sales. Now, that I always had that theory with Avengers, and that didn't exactly happen. But I think that's a different case. So we'll see.
Yeah, no, I'm feeling good about that one. And looking at this, I don't know. I mean, Kirkland's got that early lead. It feels like he's just in a really solid spot right now. I guess Plague Tale is maybe his one question mark. I don't think anyone really knows what's going on with that sequel and when that's supposed to come out. But if that comes out, I feel like if he just gets his 5 games out, then he's kind of good. He maybe just sweeps it.
You never know, though. You all of us can get a couple good review scores. St. Rose could be a 60. It's. Yeah. I'm not counting out. Yeah, we're only in March. Lots of times for mistakes to be made from developers.
It's true.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a quick ad break here. We'll come back and we'll talk about we'll break down the state of play that happened last week. So let's take a very quick break. Okay, and we're back. Travis, a few days ago, Sony released a state of play that they didn't really hype it up too much in advance. I think it was a few days at most that they had kind of announced that was happening. 20 minutes of some games, mostly focused on PS5, but it seemed like most things in here were kind of PS4 and PS5, but obviously they want to market their new system and whatnot. But as a PS5 owner, were you hyped by the show? What did you think?
I was excited for it because it felt like it's been, I don't know when we got the last one, but I feel like it's been a good minute. I don't know,
I mean, there was a Ghostwire Tokyo focused one a month ago, but in terms of the last just state of play itself, it must have been in the fall, I think.
Because was that big? I feel like was the last one, unfortunately, was that the one where we got KOTOR remake and Wolverine and the look at Spider-Man 2? Was that the last crossover one? Yeah. So here's the thing where I was already expecting a little more just because it had been a while for a big one like that. I was not expecting the same thing as the fall one because you can only do those big rollout ones so many times, right? Because you could show that again, but then you get in that, we've seen this already. So I wasn't expecting it to be the fall when we got that last one, but I was expecting a little bit more. Now, here's the double thing where this is because we do have a podcast. I think you had seen it. There were multiple insiders being like, oh, they got lost the show. There's going to be a big one coming up. They got big information. And this one did not feel like this. This just felt like a little update on some games. Some you knew, some you didn't, some, DLC, stuff like that. Even things like them dropping the PSVR 2, they maybe even could have saved it for this. I feel like it would have gave it a little more chutzpah of oh, look, there's this. And not that VR is the biggest thing, but I think that almost would have highlighted that. I think it would have been good for both. It would have made the event feel a bit bigger and feel VR a bit bigger, make the VR 2 a bit better.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. But so it was kind of waste of time is a harsh thing to say, but I did not feel that this was maybe warranted as of right now. And I also feel this is the Trav side where there just wasn't too many games that spoke to me this time. And that's where I go, okay, that's fine. But it felt like the general feeling was just kind of like a thud. Not that it was bad, but be like, oh, okay, this felt like this was half of a state of play where some of these games would have been sprinkled throughout some other stuff. So I think it was a little disappointing all around.
Yeah, I think that's a fair place to be. I think for me, one thing I saw was that people were kind of hyping up the Final Fantasy 16 is going to have a big showing here or something.
I saw that a lot, yeah,
which
and I thought
didn't
for sure it was
happen.
happening.
Yeah, and you know the stuff like that is 100% to the fault of the fans for getting hyped on this random thing that was never announced. They never said expect Final Fantasy at this thing. Like that's just people imagining something, or scoopers or something like that too, and giving too much faith to that. So yeah, I think for me I felt when I first was watching the show live, I was a little underwhelmed. But then honestly, watching it again this morning, just as I was putting the notes together and stuff, I was like, man, this is actually a really good show. Like, it's 20 minutes long. Here's some new games. Here's a couple updates on games, and it's just a ton of gameplay. For me, that's always something I'll critique in these shows. Is if you're showing me an hour of new games and it's just theatrical trailers or I don't know, sizzle reel things like this. Like, I'm not too into that, but I thought that this show had a great variety of gameplay showed across the various games. And yeah, there was a couple things in there. It's like we already know these games are coming out, and it's kind of just reminding you. So the more marketing thing, but I will say there's a couple games here that stood out to me. I thought looked pretty interesting. I don't know if any of them are console sellers. Like I'm racing to get my PS5 now.
Yeah.
And I think that's maybe my one critique of it is it didn't have that one big thing. That could have been Final Fantasy, it could have been God of War, it could have been Last of Us, multiplayer that they've talked about. Part 2 is supposed to have multiplayer at some point that they're talking about, but they still haven't done that. So I think it was lacking that one big thing. Now, maybe the other flip side of that is if you do have that one big thing, sometimes it overshadows the other stuff. And so instead, this was maybe a bunch of more middling games. It feels like kind of like launch title-y games, like things you see in the first year of a new console, trying out some new things with some new IP. So I think that's kind of where I'm at. But overall, I think there are some cool games here, and I'm excited to talk about a couple of them. But I can definitely understand everyone's point of view that, this was kind of a letdown of a state of play. But I think, once again, people need to really get their hype in check. Unless Sony specifically says to expect this thing, then don't expect that thing because you're just going to feel yourself disappointed. And at least they did say there's going to be no VR here, so don't expect that. So you could go in not seeing that, but yeah, you're right. That would have been hyped to see some more what they're planning with their, because obviously if they're going a whole other generation of VR, like they're going to have some big games to pump that up. It's not just like indies or these smaller devs making stuff. So, and they've acquired studios that are making VR. So yeah, that could have added to it for sure.
Yeah, no, for me, I wasn't even expecting games. Just kind of surprised they should just save the reveal here, because they just dropped in a press release on some random Wednesday or something, right? It was just like, oh, VR2, and I saw it in my timeline, and then I scrolled around. So, yeah.
Yeah, so let's go through it. The first game in the list was a game that Taylor would just be super into called Exoprimal. Which it starts out as just like there's this robot on a news show who's like, here's the weather report, and it's just like dinosaurs are coming out of the sky, very Avengers kind of thing. We're just in the middle of New York, and all these dinosaurs are pulling out of this black hole in the middle of the city. This game looks pretty wild. It definitely looked next gen in the sense of there's like a fuck ton of enemies on screen at a time. Yeah. Like you're fighting legitimate like 50 dinos at like any given time. It looks like a co-op like multiplayer focused game with maybe different classes where you might have a character who's flying around, scouting out, and then maybe some guys on the ground with shields and stuff. But what did you think of this game? Is this doing it for you?
So you're completely right, but it feels like a next gen game as far as you look at the scope of it. But it feels like a PS2 game as far as like the plot, the setting, everything about it. This just feels like one of these games that we would be talking on the cast and someone bringing it up and like, is that a real game? And you look like, oh, this is. I imagine it's probably a full price game. This to me comes down to that whole games could be priced differently, because you could make the case for, we've talked this before, like a Witcher or an Elden Ring to be priced more because it's so massive, right? Versus a other $60 game like Guardians maybe per se, which is I liked but not as massive as Elden Ring. If this is a full price game, I do not see this game doing well. This to me, unfortunately, would have been perfect for like the Xbox Games Pass side of like, oh, try this out. Maybe it gets a cult following, tons of fun. But if you got to jump in anywhere from $60 to $80, I do not see this game being profitable. It looked, and because the thing is, it just looked like a game you would play for a session and then maybe be good with. You know, like I didn't feel it was that in depth. It looked funny. It looked like a meme game though, of like it didn't exist, or it would be something that was cheaper and it's just little man. Like I'm very surprised. I'm interested to see the rollout of this game. I just don't. I liked it. I laughed the entire time seeing it, but I just don't know. I don't personally know. And maybe, you know, Taylor would try out, but I actually think Taylor would spend like the full price game on this one, right?
Definitely not. Yeah.
And that's where it's like, it's a weird game. I appreciate them making it, but from a business side, I go, why was this made? And maybe it'll be super fun, but I don't think for full price this is going to do. I think this is a perfect, you know, hopefully it comes to game, like if this is a different scenario, when the game's pass and it becomes like a Twitch sensation for a couple weeks where people are like, look at this silly dinosaur game. But it didn't look that in depth. That's the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, it did look a little bit simple and mindless, but you know, I think could be some more depth to it. This is a 2023 game, so I'm sure we'll see a lot more of this before it actually comes out. Yeah, to me, this seemed like like if this was a day one PS Plus ad, or even like the month after PS Plus ad, that would be great. Like that seems like a game I'd be super psyched to get on that service. And there's been a lot of talks of PlayStation and they're doing their Game Pass competitor and stuff, and maybe people were expecting that here too. I don't know, but we'll see that at some point this year. I think like what they're gonna do for their Game Pass equivalent. And I think this is a game that, you know, even if it's not day one, but you know, a couple of months down the road or something like that, could be a fun game. Because you're right, it might just be a one and done kind of thing. Like unfortunately the my God, what's the dodgeball game called that we played?
Knockout City.
Yeah, Knockout City. Like that was super fun, but that's like, yeah, I really just played that game once, didn't I? I never came back to it afterwards. And this could be one of those as well with the co-op. But you know, there is a lot of PlayStation seems to be really focused on single player games these days, and they do branch out obviously with Legends and stuff like that. But cool, this seems like a nice, like fun co-op game as well. So I think that at least varies up their portfolio a bit in terms of what you can expect. So yeah, that was the first game.
I tried to get Knockout City in the Gauntlet, but Kirkland would not play me in it. He felt he couldn't do well.
Right.
So.
Huh. That's too bad. I would like to see that someday in the Gauntlet. That'd be fun.
I would too, yeah.
And that like they like broke off. They're not even related to EA anymore. Like they're just kind of an independent studio or something. Yeah. So good for them. The next two games were kind of just like, hey, remember these games are coming out. So Ghostwire Tokyo on March 25th and Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin, which we talked about. Yeah, March 18th. I have on my list here, but I think reviews are coming up soon. So anyway, it's coming out this week. I don't think there's too much to add. I will say for Ghostwire, me and Dante like broke down the state of play they did for that. It's in the Sidequest feed. So I think if you want a super in-depth look at Ghostwire, then maybe go back to that, because I know he's picking up that game. He's super excited for it. But just kind of reminding you of the release dates on these two. You have Stranger of Paradise on your draft. Is any thoughts on these two games?
Yeah, that one I just picked, as I said before, Final Fantasy. He usually has like at least a track record of being an 80 or higher. So it's like, okay, at least be a solid one. Watch, this will be one of the like worst ones of the franchise and bring me down. But no, I've always wanted to get back into Final Fantasy because I did play it in that PS2 era. I do very much plan on doing the Final Fantasy VII remake at some point, but I think that's kind of it for me. I think the rest has passed me by. Ghostwire Tokyo, I'll just repeat this for anyone that's new. I've not been a big fan of. I'm starting to like and play more first-person games, but a first-person Magic game isn't up my alley, really, and it's also had tons of problems and whatnot. This is another game that's so funny between this and the dinosaur game. You used to live in a world maybe 2 years ago where Sony was putting out a game and you knew it was going to be like an insta hit with tons of great reviews and great sales. Those two, I don't know, especially Ghostwire. That one I will not be playing probably ever, even if it reviews well. I think it's just not a game for me. That one I'm going to be watching though when we get the NPDs for that month, because I just want to see, do people care about this game? Because I feel like it has come back and they have been pushing it hard, but I just see nobody talk about it really as far as hype. Like even that state of play, I kind of forgot they did one because it just seemed like it came and went. So I'm more interested on the business side of that one to see, is there an audience for this? And plus, this is the last, yeah, this is the last one of the deal, right? With what was it?
Yeah,
Bethesda? Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, so it's Tango GameWorks, who are part of Bethesda, who are part of Xbox. So yeah, that's one that is like guaranteed to come to Game Pass in the future, if assuming they port it, which I'm guessing they will port it over to Xbox. So that would be like, yeah, that's coming to Game Pass at some point in the future. So I think that's maybe a bit of reservation, but for me personally, it's just I am interested in it. I think it looks great, but it is PS5 only. You know, for it also, well, I should say, I think it's also on PC. For Deathloop, I was willing to play, you know, a worse version of the game on PC just because I couldn't wait. For this game, though, it's definitely a wait and play on Game Pass or something like that. So that's kind of where I'm at with that one. Next up was Forspoken, a game that I think has kind of gone up and down. Like its first showing when it was called Project Athia, I feel like everyone was super hyped on it. It looked really cool. And then, you know, they had a couple more trailers and people weren't super hyped on the dialogue, and maybe the world was a bit different than they were expecting. And what I liked about this showing today is it seemed less focused on the story and more, here's a bunch of gameplay. Here's a bunch of snippets of what a 5-10 second, you know, chunk will look like when you're playing this game. And I have to say for myself, I thought this looked great. Like, it's super frenetic. You're moving around super fast. You're flying around. You got all your magic powers. You're like surfing around like Silver Surfer on this, like, you know, magic surfboard. So I mean, it looks super fast paced. The combat looks fun. The enemies you're fighting are cool. The designs are great. So to me, this was like the best showing of the game so far. I was pretty hyped on it, I have to say.
Yeah, I think for me the best showing still was probably that first one, because that blew me away. Thinking, oh, this is gonna be like another big, massive Sony one. I think you had a good explanation of it going up and down. I liked this one a lot. I think for me though, some of the gameplay, it looked like almost something where I have with Horizon, where it looked I might get a little tired of the loop eventually, because man, she backflipped a lot in this state of play.
A lot of flips.
They show that so much to the point where, like, what's like, I get it, she can do this move, and that was my worry of like Horizon. I'm probably discounting that a little bit more. Horizon has this weapon wheel, it has a lot more, but that was my worry when I saw this. I go, okay, how vast is her attacks and whatnot? So the world looks cool, like you said, some of the creatures and enemies look cool, but actually some of the fighting didn't look bad. It just didn't look like there was a huge variety. Now I just don't know if they wanted to show us stuff better for the trailer, so that's where I'd have to see. As far as you look at some, like, here's a better comparison. Probably Elden Ring, right? You have a few buttons that do something, but it's the rest of the world that's really exciting, everything like that, and you play it for the hardness of the combat, the timing. This doesn't look like it'd be that per se, but it does look really cool. So it's a game, I don't know why, probably just because that first showing, I'm like pulling for it. I really want to be good. I want, when it come time October, to actually buy it. I wouldn't say I'm a 50-50. I'd say I'm probably like a 40-60 for not buying it. But, and it is close to Gotham Knights, but I want when release week is coming, lots of people talking about it, and see a little bit more. So I'm higher than lukewarm. I'm not boiling, but it's, you know, I still have it on my kind of keeping an eye on it. And it's one of these games that I might buy later on when it's, you know, $20 off or something like that. But I'm pulling for it. But this showing was, I won't say mixed, but a little better than mixed for me.
Yeah. So I guess digging into what you're saying there, like the world and stuff, like, because to me, that was what stood out, was like the creature design. I thought was really, really cool. So were you into that part of it? Are you like more invested in the world from this, would you say?
Well, yeah, 100%, because I'm just even rewatching it again. I love a lot of the textures going on. It does remind me at times a lot of Horizon, though, like lots of the greens, lots of the mountains and everything. So again, it's like, do I kind of have that here? But it just felt like it was massive at a time. Like, I don't think Elden Ring massive, but just some of the attack areas, the openness, and I think that's gonna be fun if you're fighting multiple people. So, and it's still this idea that she kind of gets transported from somewhere else and she's in this world. So there's a lot of things to like, and you know, I'm wondering if there's gonna be a fast travel system, or if you can ride on something, because
there's probably fast travel. I mean,
because it is pretty big. So if she's just running around, I don't know about that. But yeah, and some of the they look like a variety. There's a variety of colors and stuff going on. So it is more the world stuff that's keeping me in, because like I said, the combat I didn't look at them and go, wow, like I can't wait to play that, you know?
The next game, Gundam Evolution. I don't really have much to add on. This is a Gundam fighting game. Looks cool if you're into that kind of thing. Like, I feel like if you are into that genre, this might be the game you've been waiting for. Like, the visuals are good. It looks fun. but just not really my personal vibe. I was never really a Transformers guy or anything like that.
Yeah, you came to the wrong spot if you're looking for the gun, because that's both in Dylan's eyes not wheelhouse. So I thought the same thing as you. For that audience, looks like it could be good, but for me, didn't make me interested. So.
And then TMNT, the Cowabunga collection, which I don't know, I butchered that pronunciation, but I think this is the first time we've seen this, and it's pretty much just a compilation of the old TMNT games over the years. I don't know how many games are in here. It looked like at least, I don't know, 8 or 9 games in there. So yeah, pretty good if you're into that kind of thing. And I think the timing's good. They just said 2022, and then there's also supposed to be TMT Shredder's Revenge coming out this year, which is kind of the beat 'em up, which I'm not a TMNT guy, but man, that Shredder's Revenge, like just the pixel art, I just want to play it just to study the pixel art, since I've been doing some pixel art lately. It looks so good. So I actually might pick up that one. So I think the timing on this, if it comes out before that game, could be pretty good to get you back in there, play some of these old games. Turtles in Time, I think, is kind of the one that's heralded as like the great TMNT game. So get back in there. And I'm sure, like, I feel like this is a game that's going to come to Switch and everything. And I feel like this is probably a good Switch game, or maybe a Game Pass edition at some point down the road. But yeah, I mean, have you played any of these games back in the day? Are you hyped or interested to get back in them?
I have. I feel like we've probably all dipped our toes in like a Scandia or something like that.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, or like these are NES stuff like that. So I looked up, it says it has 13 games altogether.
Nice.
This is something that, like, yeah, I wouldn't be buying, but like you said, if it Game Pass or something like that, sure, I'd try it out. And even then, I'd probably give it a few minutes. I probably wouldn't be playing this, but this is one of these announcements I saw. I'm like, man, that's just awesome, because I know there's a huge group, or at least a sizable people that they're making this game for, that would be excited for this. So I would just think, man, that's the best when this type of stuff happens. You're like, we're putting all these games together, one package. Here you go, buy it. So I just love when that type of stuff happens. So I'm really excited for those crowds, people, and it's just a great idea. It's all around probably not too hard for them to do. So it wouldn't be one I'd be buying, but. It looks like what you expect from the other ones, which is a good thing. So
yeah. And this next game just was calling out to be put on the Geekverse Gauntlet. Giga Bash, which just looks like the Godzilla game that we played on 360. We've done that on the stream before, where you're just playing these kaiju monsters, smashing up a city rampage style, fighting each other. It looks over the top. It's crazy. I don't know if I said the name. It's called Giga Bash.
Yeah, you did.
It looks like a lot of fun. I mean, is this a game I could justify, spending dollars on? I don't know. It might be like you just get in there and play with some friends on a drunken night or something like that. But I mean, it looks like it's going for a very specific vibe, and it's nailing that specific vibe. It's just quite a niche vibe that it's aiming for.
Well, yeah, referring to that game we played on the stream once, and we just fell in love with it. And I remember playing it for
Jet
hours.
Jaguar.
Jet Jaguar came from. The fun thing about this, though, this one has 4-player, not just the 1v1. So
nice.
Yeah. So that's even more interesting. So it wasn't a big showing, but it was when I had the exact same thought of, oh yeah, I could see this popping up in a stream in the future. It looks like it'd be tons of fun to play for an hour or two with everybody.
Yeah, I hope that comes to Game Pass in the future. Obviously, in a show like this, they're only showing off the PlayStation versions, but some of these games, of course, are coming to other consoles.
Yeah.
This next one, though,
or if it comes to whatever they do announce, the whole Spartacus thing, maybe some of these games in the future will be a part of that. So,
this next game, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure All-Star Battle. It's a mouthful.
Tricked me.
This is I think maybe one of the least surprising things. Sony is very deeply into fighting games. They bought Evo last year, which is a fighting game championship series. So I think we're gonna see just multiple fighting games from them every year, or at least like exclusive DLC or something like that. Since they have the platform to put these tournaments on and whatnot. I think the art style of this is great. This is based off the anime in some way. It looks like there's like a shit ton of characters, like 40 or 50 characters or something. So if you want a fighting game with variety and maybe aren't necessarily looking for balance, this might be the one. But I thought the visuals looks great. It's coming out early fall 2022. I'm excited to. I'd watch a tournament of this. I'd watch a couple games. Like, it seems cool. Seems fun.
Yeah, I think what you brought up, the biggest thing for me was like the variety of choices and characters. I looked it up. It's 50 characters you can play as.
That's insane, man.
Yeah,
that's crazy
tons.
for a fighting game.
Yeah, that's really fun. That's the best thing. So, yeah, I don't know if it's one that I wouldn't be playing as far as I rarely play fighting games, and I do agree with you though. I like the style because I don't watch the anime or anything, but I think it just gives it a different look right away. I was at first when they were talking about a fighting series, but then they said iconic. I got tricked, but I was like, man, are we about to get All Stars too? Because they're like, oh, time to jump into a fighting series, and then like we're returned to the iconic world. I'm like, okay, they wouldn't call All Stars iconic, so I'm screwed there. But yeah, it looks like if you're looking for that type of thing, if you're a huge fighting fan, I feel like this is going to have something for you. Early fall is questionable. Let's see if that actually makes it, because anytime they just give the...
It's oddly ambiguous. Like, it's kind of specific for what we usually get, but it still feels more ambiguous.
Why not just say September then at that point?
Why not just pick a month, or
yeah.
just pick a day at that point.
Yeah, just say September, whatever. That's early fall. So that's where I feel, is this actually going to be early fall? I think it might be early next year. But yeah, we'll see. Interesting title, though.
Yeah, and then this next game, Trek to Yomi, is a game we've seen a couple times now at different shows. This is a very black and white samurai homage sort of game. No, it seems like it's more of a pulled out view than like a Ghost of Tsushima third person action adventure game. But I think they really highlighted the actors and the characters in this trailer, showing off the world once more. This game looks amazing. I also wanted to mention that this is coming to other platforms, and this is coming to Game Pass as well. For me, because it's on Game Pass, I'll be playing this day one. Like, it looks super cool. Not a huge samurai guy necessarily, but I think they're just nailing that style once again, and can't go wrong with this. Like, we're big Ghost of Tsushima fans here, so I feel like because of that, I'm just more interested in this game.
Well, I feel like it's kind of like I remember the first time we saw the first look at Ghost of Tsushima, and you and I were a little more down on it, but we were like, oh, we would still buy this game just to even see the visuals of it, right? Luckily, great game. We all enjoyed it. You can check out, we have a review somewhere in the annals of history of Geekverse.
Multiple on Ghost.
Yeah. But this is the same thing. It just looked really cool. Would it be on Games Pass? Funny enough, talking about, during the PlayStation one, or hopefully it's on their Spartacus. Anywhere where it is, if it is for that sort of service, that's an easy download. Try it for a little bit, because if you're not into it, you move along. This is a game that I think I will when it's out. Like, either you let me know or I'll see it, and I probably would try it out, because it didn't look, like you said, as vast as a Ghost of Tsushima, obviously.
Yeah,
but it had
much more like smaller level based. Than it
was going almost for even more artsy than Ghost of Tsushima, as far as like the style and the black and white and the shell shading, as far as like not shell shading but the shading around. Like, I want to see the game kind of in action, and then I will probably very likely at least try this out a little. It's a good showing, I thought, for it.
Yeah, we've seen the one a few times now, so they've been hyping it up. Spring 2022 on that one, and then
not early spring.
What's that? No, just ambiguous spring, which somehow feels more specific. Returnal Ascension is the kind of 3.0 update for Returnal, which seems like maybe some new areas and whatnot, but the focus was on co-op as a new feature. And so Returnal came out last year. If you want to hear some praise of that game, go back to the Game of the Year discussions, because Dante is in love with that game. We talked about it a lot. And to me, that's kind of the biggest PS5. Man, yes. I really wish I could play that game, but I just can't yet. And I was wondering if in this showing it was going to be, okay, we're bringing it to PS4, because they've done that for a couple games. Like Godfall was one, and there's some other one as well where, PS5 exclusive is how they're marketing it, but then they kind of retroactively bring it to PS4 as well. So I was selfishly hoping for that for PS4 so that I could play this game, because, I mean, still, I'm going to be, whenever I get my PS5 in the future, this will be like a day one buy, I think. And the co-op's cool. Like, it seems like a fun addition. Not what I would have expected for Returnal in a roguelike, but it seems cool. The new areas, or I'm assuming some of these are new areas they showed off, are just a beautiful game. So I know Returnal might not be for you, another one of those games that you can't really pause, or maybe they've added the pause now, but that was like a big thing for you. But what did this do for you? I don't think the co-op necessarily is a selling point, but what do you think of what they showed here?
Well, no, I thought it looked really good. I think the co-op's really cool because it gives you that option of, again, if you're into the solo journey, you don't have to do this. You can do it alone, whatnot. We still got to do something Elden Ring at some point, but I think that's good. I like that there's support for it, because I think they do know. There's only been a handful. Luckily, from this state of play, we saw a few more, but there's only been a handful of straight to PS5 games, right? Like this, Ratchet and Clank, probably a few other ones in there.
Demon Souls,
and Ghostwire's coming up, right? Stuff like that. So, but this is, to me, Ratchet and Clank had a good showing, but to me that did not stand. Like, I saw for a while there was a month of everyone talking about Returnal, and I'm more open to play it now after I've been exposed to the Elden Ring world, because I just thought maybe that game is just like, that game style is just not for me at all. So, and what I always liked, though, I think because we had talked about when it was first revealed, how, again, kind of like Elden Ring, the world, and I love the sci-fi, and it had like that sci-fi horror, and anytime, even the showing, I do get that, like, man, I do really want to try this game. I think I'm just on the foot of, I'm waiting for it to go down or to pop up as maybe not a PlayStation, free game yet, but sometimes they have those massive sales where it's like 50% off. When it's like that, I think I will get around to having a go at it, because I've always been intrigued by it, and I've just heard nothing but good things for people that do like that stuff. Yeah, that was the thing I remember when we were looking into, because I think I was talking to Dylan about potentially getting it, and he was telling me, he was like, yeah, you could go like, a whole 2 hours, there's no pause thing. And yeah, for me as a parent, it's like, yeah, that's kind of tough. Even Elden Ring. That's why Elden Ring right now I play when the kiddos are asleep. But the good thing with Elden Ring, it's like, there's a lot of trees, there's a lot of grace sites where I can go there and kind of save, right?
Yeah.
So if Returnal has even that, where there's some save points, great. But it sounded like it didn't. It sounded like it is a drudge to get through in the best way possible. But I like that they're supporting it, and I don't know how the game ends, but I think the fact that they highlighted the success, they're pushing this. I think even a sequel down the line is probably going to happen, which is great, because more new franchises, the better, more options for people. So
yeah, that was a good ad for them. They acquired Housemarque last year, I think it was.
Yeah.
And now it seems like that was a big success for them, and I'm sure we'll see a lot more Returnal. But that was called Returnal Ascension, by the way, is the name of that DLC that comes out March 22nd. So cool. I don't know if they've talked about this before. This is the first time I have seen this.
I don't think they had, no.
It's pretty cool that they announced it, and then look at this, like a couple weeks later, it's out and you can play it. So that's pretty neat. And I think it's just like a free add-on. I don't think this is like paid DLC, even though they have a separate name for it. 2 more games here. This one's called the Diafield Chronicle. Diafield. I don't know how that word is supposed to be pronounced.
Diafield, yeah.
But yeah, it's coming out 2022. This looks kind of Fire Emblem-like in the gameplay, and maybe the setting is sort of fantasy, but also kind of future tech and stuff like that. So that's kind of the vibe. I don't think this is going to be a Travis game. What did you think of this one? That's my prediction.
I think you hit the nail on the head, where, again, this is not a game like the dinosaur game where I go, this doesn't look like it was maybe worth the investment. Let's see how it goes. This, I understand completely who it's for, the audience, and that's great. I think for me, it was... So, this is not a game I'd be getting. It's not a game that I think looks bad. It's just not my alley. I think what kind of set myself up, and the way the state of play going, I wasn't expecting much, but they really hyped it. Like, we got 2 big new titles to show you, and I think these could be big titles, but I think they're a lot more specific to a genre. To me, it's not like we talked about earlier with Pokemon. Yeah, I'm not into Pokemon, but I get if they say, hey, we got a big thing to show you that's Pokemon, that matches the hype because Pokemon's massive, right? I felt like these either didn't have that appeal being massive, or they didn't look... They didn't like. There's sometimes where you look at an Elden Ring, where I was on that franchise, but you have a trailer or even Returnal, you go, you know what, I'm interested in this. I don't think the trailers or showings were that good where it made me go, oh yeah, I'd be even interested to give this a shot. So I was surprised that they ended, because they kind of put this and the next game together, and they said we got 2 big things to show. But looked exactly for that audience, and a Fire Emblem was the first thing I thought of when I did see it, and I was like, did they strike some deal? The newbie in me, I'm like, oh, is there some big thing happening that I don't know about? But no, it's just this, and not playing this one this time.
Yeah, no, this seems very Final Fantasy in its aesthetic, but yeah, I think it's a good addition for PlayStation. It kind of varies up their repertoire in terms of genres, because they don't really have a tactics thing. Like Switch kind of messes around. They just had Triangle Strategy come out, and they also have Fire Emblem, so they're kind of almost cornered that market. So I think it's cool that this is a good addition for PlayStation to have, switch it up. It looked all right to me. I like the layouts of the level. They look cool. It seems like there's a lot of customization on your characters and equipment and stuff. There was something weird going on when you control your units and you move them somewhere. They move there in real time rather than Fire Emblem. Your characters kind of just zip to where you're going. But it seems like there's maybe a live element to it, a real-time strategy element to it as well, where you moved all your troops, but they moved so slowly that it looked really weird. And it's they're kind of bigger than their surroundings, which is a classic Fire Emblem thing, but it looked kind of weird here. I think visually, like just the fidelity of the graphics was great. I don't know if the story gripped me. It seemed kind of generic.
Yeah.
But those games, like even Fire Emblem, as much as I'm a big fan of that series, I will be the first to admit that this story is quite generic, and I'm usually not that into it. I'm just there for the gameplay. So I could see myself getting this one. I think this one is coming out this year, and this is like the year of tactical games. Like there's Triangle Strategy, which just came out. Check out our review from last week. I'm almost done that game now. It's fucking amazing. Loving that game. We got Marvel's Midnight Suns coming out. Metal Slug Tactics is coming out. Advance Wars is coming out. Like there's a lot in that genre this year, and there might even be like a Fire Emblem later this year as well. So. But not on PlayStation necessarily. Some of these games are exclusive to other platforms, so it's a good ad, and I got to see more personally. I got to see like that short 15-minute state of play they do just on this game to get the breakdown of why I should be interested in this one. But the initial hook has me interested, but not sold completely yet. And then the last game that you alluded to is Valkyrie Elysium coming out this year, a sequel to Valkyrie Profile, which was a PS1 game from 1999, I believe. So that game's been on ice for a while. So I'm sure I'm sure there's some diehard fans out there that were just popping off, but I don't think there's many of them out there that were chomping at the bit. I know personally I've never heard of this series. But I will say I thought this was a good showing for it. It wasn't that big one last game, that's going to get everyone in the world hyped. But it looked a lot like Nier. I played Nier Automata in January, and that was a fun time. It looks kind of similar in terms of the combat and the world design and stuff. I don't know if I'm hooked on the story or... honestly, there wasn't too much that really stood out, but it seems decent. It seems cool, and it's a game that I'll definitely be looking forward to, like whatever trailers they release next, and decide if I want to play it. And obviously, I haven't played the first one. I don't foresee myself finding a PS1 to go back and catch up on it. Maybe they can make it available on PS Now or something like that to play. But yeah, I'm guessing this one as well didn't do too much for you personally.
Yeah, I was the exact same boat as you. As I had to look it up, like, what is this title and everything. Like, wow, PS1. That is, we're going back quite a ways. And it's interesting. Again, it's like you said, there's probably some fans in here that was super hyped, but it's always, I think you're walking on a line or the edge when you pick a game, you're doing a sequel that is a sequel from a game that has been out in multiple decades, and you never know the hype or excitement level, because we've seen it before where something comes out and just people are super excited and been waiting forever. Then you've seen kind of the dud. I don't think this was a dud per se. I think it's just that, again, people were expecting something even a bit more name value to end the show, and it didn't, which, like you said, that's hype and expectations. But again, and it almost akens back to, I remember before they had a really big state of play, PlayStation had a lot of these where they were just doing mini updates, and people are like, oh, this is not having that same kind of oomph. But yeah, it looked all right, but it honestly, it was one of my least memorable things of this state of play. It's one of the things that I had to, while you're talking, I was looking back on it, like, all right, yeah, I like kind of has that, anime aesthetic and stuff like that. I think it looks beautiful at times as far as some of the characters and everything, and some of the battle. Like, it looks smooth, which is good, but it's one that I don't think I'll be picking up and stuff. And it's one of these things that if I was to pick up something in this type of genre, I think there's other games I would be maybe interested. I'd probably rather just try and go back to, like more into Final Fantasy than this, and even like Nier Automata, which I never played, but I've heard so much about. It's like, okay, maybe I would go pick up that because I've heard so much hype about it. Let me try that before I try this one. So again, maybe we'll see some more. Maybe they'll turn around. But it was an odd way to end the show.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I think just maybe it fell a bit flat, even if I just think there's just not tons of Valkyrie Profile fans out there. Maybe they are. I haven't met any of them personally.
Yeah. Maybe they should end it with the Dino game. That I would have loved if they just went bold, like, we're gonna end it right here and see what happens. But
I mean, looking at the run of show, like, I don't know what would have been a better closer, because you kind of want something new, you want something surprising, and something like Forspoken or Ghostwire. Those look cool, but you're not gonna end the show with like remember this game's coming out. Here's the new release date. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe Exoprimal, but I don't know. I feel like people would have been salty at that, because I feel like
I'm joking. You don't end with that one. I would just love if they went all in. Like, the last 20 minutes was just Exoprimal. But I think you're right as far as this was probably the best two to end it on. Unfortunately,
Yeah, there's almost like a level to the Valkyrie Elysium thing where it's like you can't fully critique it because like, well, I didn't play the original, so maybe it's a great game, but I just don't know. So I don't know. It's what they had. Any closing thoughts on this? I mean, I think we've kind of covered it, but yeah, a middling state of play, or maybe a lower one for some people. But yeah, some decent things here that I'm interested in.
Yeah, and it's fine because I was happy to do it, and I'm more the PlayStation guy, but that's why I was going to do the Tunic review. And I'm happy because I wanted to get more time at the Horizon, so that's why we made the switch so Taylor's like, oh yeah, I got Games Pass, I'll play it. I remember the Fox, so he's going to do that, but originally I was going to do that so we swap, but I'm like, oh, definitely, because State of Play is coming up, I'll have much more to add than Taylor because he's not a PlayStation guy. And luckily we have some fun here, but I was like, oh, that's the State of Play, huh? But no, it's always cool seeing some new stuff, so it's always good. Again, like Dylan said, it's all about expectations, but I bet the next one they do will be like this. They'll have like a couple more kind of in the middle, then you'll get that huge banger one, kind of like Direct or Switch does it sometimes with their directs, right? Where there's times where you get a run of just like some fine ones, and then they just come up with one where like, oh my goodness, this was God tier. They showed off like I think that last one was almost close to a God tier one with Striker, like the one you and Kirkland talk about. Like there was so much in it, so much cool stuff, but then you'll get just a fine one. So that happens when you do these, right? So again, maybe in the future, if you have announcements like the PSVR, just save it for here. Like don't do a random press release on a weekday. So I will be here for the next one when it happens.
Yeah. I mean, it was short, a lot of gameplay, and whatever. Like they're getting good at the format of it in my mind. They don't have a lot of fluff in there.
If it was longer, I would have been more harder on it. I'd say that.
Definitely.
But yeah.
Okay, let's take our last ad break. We'll come back. We'll talk about Horizon Forbidden West. Okay, we are back. So Horizon Forbidden West. So me and Travis did a 3-hour-long review of this game where we covered a lot of stuff, but we were only maybe halfway through the main story, somewhere around that pocket. So I think the goal today is let's go through the rest of the story, maybe some more gameplay things or world things, but mostly focused on some of these story beats and what we thought of them. And I guess I think you should go back and listen to the other one, but like it is a long episode, so I guess maybe to condense our thoughts, I think we both really enjoyed the game, but maybe we weren't blown away like we were with Zero Dawn. And personally, I had some more gripes with the gameplay than I did last time around. And we'll get into how I feel about the rest of the story. But I think you're kind of in a similar place where just didn't blow you away, but it's still a fun time. It's fun to be back, but it just wasn't as shocking, as surprising as the first game was.
Yeah, I think the best way I describe it in a sentence is it's a great game, but it underwhelmed me at the same time.
Yeah.
Like that's exactly where it is. So
yeah. So okay, I don't know where exactly we want to start. We could just pick up from where we left off with the story last time, and maybe that's the best thing to do. So last time, we're kind of at this part where we have to go get these, and at this point, the game's a few weeks old. I finished the game like within a couple days of us recording the last Sidequest episode on it. So if I fudge some of the story details here, give me a break. It's been a few weeks since I've played this game,
and it's not like it's any. Like I don't think it's like the master game telling story. There's a lot of run here, go here. So
I guess actually, before we get into any specifics, just you finished the story now. What do you think? Like, how are you feeling about the game overall, as in terms of like the whole package, but then also just the story? Did the second half? I would think we were liking the story enough at that point, but did it land for you? Did it just greatly elevate the game, staying in the same track? Did it take you down at all? Where are you at?
I think it raised it a little bit, but not enough to get like kind of my underwhelming thing, up above to, oh, it was fantastic. Because I think it's some of our issues still were with gameplay and some choices, which were not bad, just kind of, okay, I thought there'd be a little bit more. My first thought when I ended it, or not when I ended, but when we were nearing the end, I remember telling you in the initial review, this for people that hadn't listened to it, where I went, I think once I finish this game, I can kind of be done. I don't know if I need to play a third one. And lo and behold, we got to end with some like pretty much massive cliffhanger. And I was oh, goddamn. Which now I get it, because I feel like they know this is a franchise. They want to run with it. And a third game makes sense. The third game, if I get that, it's going to be very iffy for me because I still enjoy my time. But again, I had to come back to it because I was still very much enjoying Elden Ring. I did get a little bit of the itch, but again, it's funny, I had the itch, and then once I started playing, I was like, I just wish I was playing Elden Ring right now. And that's where I think it's not just because Elden Ring is great, it's also just because the game doesn't it just didn't have the pull, and that's where we're getting now more of the story. I liked some of the story beats. I liked the idea where they're going. I think the biggest thing I liked about the story was this feeling of the people on Earth maybe finally starting to come together and realize, hey, we can have these different sections and tribes, but at the end of the day, if we don't work together, we'll all be gone. So I liked that aspect. I think they made some big choices with killing character stuff, which I do appreciate because it wasn't playing it safe. It does make you feel, there's some stakes here. As somebody that really liked the, I guess we're supposed to the clone reveal, I think it was used well enough, but I think they left a lot there to be desired. But at the same point, when it pretty much seems like they're obviously setting up for a third game, you kind of go, oh, you're going to get a lot more with beta there, and that's where it's like, I get it, but at the same time, I felt like we only had a few conversations with her and Aloy, and I wanted you have a few conversations near the end of the game. She gets kidnapped, so she just becomes a damsel you got to save. So I felt like for such a cool thing, there was much more to dive into. But again, it feels like some of the stuff they did with the Nemesis system that's coming was a lot of we got to save it for the next one. So I think that I was liking the way the story was going, but it feels a little incomplete. I get it, but at the same time, wasn't a knockout for me. So
yeah, I think in terms of the cliffhanger part of it, the first game, I think it was a post-credit scene where we got where we got Silence and he had this Hephaestus thing. And yeah, if you never got another game, it wouldn't feel like you detracted from it. But this game, they really dug their heels into the cliffhanger part of it. And this is an unfinished. This feels like an unfinished story a bit for me. Very much sequel bait in that way. I think in an overall way for me. Honestly, I think there's a lot of story stuff that just didn't work for me. There were some great moments and some individual quests that really stood out and I liked, and some set pieces I was a big fan of. But I think overall, I just think the story fell a bit flat. And I think for me, a big thing is the villains. I think this game just does not do the villains very well at all.
Yeah, you didn't end up liking them anymore, did you?
No, and there's even a couple new ones that are kind of added in there that really just don't add anything. They're there. So we'll get into the specifics of that. But I think I'm feeling, just a bit bummed out by the experience at the end of the day. And, I do want to go back and do some of these side quest, some of the great side quests, or, look at an IGN top 10 side quests to do in her, and go back and do that stuff. But I just don't really have that itch right now. I mean, Elden Ring really took me, and now I love triangle strategy. That to me honestly is on par with Elden Ring in terms of my hype. I'm loving both of them so much. So it's when am I going to go back and play Horizon? There's so many other games around the corner that I don't know when that's going to happen. But I hopefully there's maybe a few weeks there where there isn't any new games coming out, and that's when I jump back in. But I'm just not excited by it, and I'm feeling sad about that. Really, truthfully, that's just where I'm at. It's a bummer. I wish I was more hyped on this game than I could be.
Yeah, well, and that's where I was kind of hinting before, where to me, I had that feeling with Last of Us, and then I had this again, and not that it should be condemning the game, but anytime you put the thought into my mind that I should buy physical so I could at least get something back, is not a good feeling. Because to me, I didn't have that with the first one. It's I go back. There's part of me that I'm like you, because I own the game digitally. I'm gonna go back. I'll play some things, but it's one of these things that it sounds bad, but if I never played it again or played for a long time, I wouldn't the stuff that I had the itch for. I realized was maybe just the mechanics. Because here's the thing, I love Elden Ring, but there's still a time where I love the bow system. I love taking down things. That's still really fun, right? But that's the thing where it's almost if I really have that itch, because it doesn't feel that different, I could probably just go back to the first game and do that, And that's how I feel about it. And now if I get an itch, if the third game's coming out and I don't really want to buy it, what I'll do is I never beat everything in the second one. I'm just going to go back and play that, because that's where we talked about before too. These guys have just done Killzone. So the first game, I thought the story, same thing, was it was fine, but felt like it wasn't a home run. This is kind of that again. So it feels like maybe story is not their strongest point. So if story is not their strongest point and the gameplay is,
but they're trying. Oh man, there is a lot of characters, a lot of story, a lot of side quests. Yeah.
But yeah, this is definitely one that made me go, you know what, I might, and maybe even the third one, maybe I will get it, but that one I will buy physical because I don't know how much I'm gonna go back and play this. Even I told you I had the itch, but even while I was playing it, I was like, hey, I feel like I've scratched that itch. I play it for a couple hours, but like, no, I'll finish it. I'll get through because I want it, But it's kind of disappointing when how much we liked the first one. And again, I always hate saying this because I preface that it's still a really good game, and I could still see someone coming to me saying they absolutely loved it. But yeah, just a little more to be desired there.
Yeah. So let's get into some specifics. I think one thing outside of the story that I wanted to compliment the game on is the tall necks in this game. I kind of critiqued in our last episode, there's one that's locked. I'm like, why is this locked? That's so weird. And I have to say that moment actually did land for me later when you do get the Sunwing and then you go land on top of that tall neck. That's really cool. I think maybe they shouldn't have put him on the map, to kind of bait you to go over there. But
He's
at the end of the day, at the end of the day, they nailed it. And then the other one where you're in a cauldron building a tall neck, and then by the time, I don't know if you did this up north.
No.
You build the tall neck like inside the cauldron, and then you like walk outside, and then you connect it and get that part of the map. That was really cool. And then the one in the, I don't know if you did this one either, kind of southern in the jungle. It's kind of like this kind of wooden structure, like what should be a bandit camp, but there's no bandits there. So it's kind of got this desolate vibe to it. There's a couple machines that are there scary. And just like this longer platforming sequence to get on top of it, but I actually liked it. It did feel very problem solving and puzzle solving rather than just like this simple linear solution that's really annoying to go through. Like I critique some of the other stuff, but yeah, I definitely wanted to compliment the tall necks because I think that's something they could have very well just copied what they did in the first game. And a couple of them, you got to get up on this one structure and then jump down. But I think they did a good job of really coming up with some clever new ways for you to get on top of Old Tallneck and making those moments hit again like they did in the first game. So big props there.
Yeah, no, unlike the first playthrough, this one I was much more in the, okay, I'm going to streamline, like, get through as much as I could. So, and plus, you're a big tall necks guy. You're always, in the first review, you were talking about how you're looking for one. So I just kind of like, if they come across me, I'm like, oh, sure, I'll do this, but I never go out looking for them. But no, that's cool to hear. And maybe I'll put those as far as some ones I could return to try out. So,
yeah. So, when we left off last time in the story, we were at the part where, you go collect these 3 separate subordinates. I'm trying to run my brain through what are these words again.
They're just the programs, like what is the prothesis or whatever.
So you had done the first one, and now you've done the Vegas one, and then the one where you meet Alva in, I forget the name of that location, but what'd you think of those missions and the story beats there?
Yeah, you had prepped me for this, and I absolutely agree. The settings, and that's even some of the stuff later on, like even when we have the finale of the game, some of the settings are really cool and very diverse. So again, it's a beautiful game. It looks great. It feels different right away. You get an area, like even the third one when you're going into when you meet that girl in almost like the San Francisco area, it's like swampy, and there's just cars in the middle of the ground. Like, and then the Vegas one was definitely probably the highlight of the game. The swimming, not so much, but the Vegas part is swimming. It's a lot of swimming, and swimming usually doesn't feel good in games, and it doesn't here, in my opinion. But it was really cool, very well done visually. It was great because it wasn't exactly what I was expecting because it is like Vegas, but it's Vegas still like a few years, like it's still a futuristic Vegas, right? So it's like, oh, this is really fun what they did here. So. I liked those characters you met that was trying, like, they were kind of like, I don't know, a little silly, I'd say, but I liked
a little ragtag team.
I liked them a lot. That was lots of fun. So I thought that was a great set piece. And that's what I'd say, even in times where maybe the story's lacking, the set pieces are always, good. But that one is probably up there with the couple, and I always forget the names, but it was a couple missions before when you met when I was describing like that Mad Max world, those two type of, like the desert, that and Vegas stand out for me. And like I said, I really like San Francisco too, because the swampness and everything, it was, it was fun. And again, I think that was smart for something that I thought was very generic of, hey, you got to go to these 3 separate places and find these things. They make it feel not generic by, okay, I really like exploring the landscape here and seeing it. So really well done.
Yeah, and then the one you do, I guess after that, you could do them out of order, is where, and I forget the name of this facility. Pardon me for the name forgetting here.
Yeah.
But you join up with Alva here. You kind of clear out some bandits, and you do some like really what I thought was a pretty great boss fight against a machine that I can't remember the name of in that place. And you do some, platforming puzzle solving with Alva, and you kind of get to meet her, get to know her. I really like that character. I thought she was something different from the rest of the cast. I was glad that she joined the team, and I just liked her clan and how they had a more of a religious background for their beliefs, and they believed in Ted Faro and Elizabeth Sobek as like these gods, these kind of these just normal people that they built up into these godlike figures. And I thought that whole thing was very captivating to me. They kind of play some jokes on it too, where instead of like Ted Faro's the CEO and he calls himself the CEO and kind of builds into this thing. So I liked Alva, and maybe some of the other stuff fell flat. We'll get into that, but at least that intro mission with her I really liked, and I was glad she joined the team. And as a character, I'll be happy to see in the sequel down the road.
Yeah, I like when they come up to her and they're like, she murdered so many of our men, and then she just goes, oh, you guys, shot without asking, like whatever. She has some sort of expression like those who fire arrows without knowledge, or it's so like, well, she still killed all these guys, and it was still fine because they attacked her. But I did like that she said that, oh no, this is a reincarnation of Elizabeth, and then right away it completely swaps as far as their dynamic. So it was fun. Lots of like row and whatnot. That I kept not doing great stealth. I was trying to stealth at one point. You have to get through a field with a bunch of them. I could not get through that field without them seeing me. Eventually I did one time because I was like, I don't want to fight these guys. I'm trying to streamline this and get through it. And then when you break the door down, I couldn't find where you jump up. And I forgot, because it's been a while, that there was a ladder and it had a yell piece that you could shoot that and it brings the ladder down. So I was like, where the fuck am I supposed to go? I have no idea. And I didn't look it up. I figured it out. But I was like, what is going on? So like I'm trying to sneak, but also figure this out. So every time they would see me, and eventually it did just end up to, after I would sneak and then I'd get caught, I would literally do start from safe because I don't want to do this battle. I ended up just doing the battle anyways and kill them all. So it's like I just wasted so much time here. So, but it was a cool area, very kind of lots of moss and very greeny and whatnot. So
yeah, and then so kind of flowing into the next part, you kind of join up with Alva's squad and you go to their island, and they're kind of in San Francisco, and it's some interesting stuff. And you do the Pharaoh's Tomb quest is the name of it. And so what did you think of this mission? Because there's some crazy story stuff going on there. It's kind of an interesting set piece as well. So what did you think about the kind of Ted Faro twist and that mission in general?
Because I played some Friday. It's the Ted Faro twist. Is that when they start introducing Nemesis and everything like that?
Not quite. So Ted Faro is like when you go into Pharaoh's tomb, and he's got like these giant statues of himself.
It's water,
and then eventually like
dripping.
Breaks down with lava and whatnot. But essentially, the twist being that Ted Faro is still alive, and he's like turned into this fucked up creature that you never see. But you see people's reaction to seeing him is what happens.
So yeah, I had to honestly look that up after, because I thought I missed something. I thought that they were talking about him in past tense.
Oh, okay.
And I thought because I remember the screen going in, but it was, maybe I wasn't paying attention as much as I want to, as not care. Because I talked to you before that I wasn't a big fan of the Ted Faro and like the Travis character. So anytime they're on screen, like, oh my, because like just here's the thing, when I read up that it was like, okay, he is actually alive, I was like, that's a strange beat, because it feels weird, because it feels like lots of stuff from the first game we were told, which is I guess fine. Even this game, it's like, oh, it was a lie. It's actually this case, but it's almost like, okay, well, like Elizabeth was, I guess she died, but she had all these clones, so she's still around. Ted Faro was supposed to be gone, but he's still around. And then you have this Nemesis thing. So it was fun, but I think we kind of talked about some of the story beats in the first time. It felt a little too sci-fi for my taste. But again, I thought at first that it was just, okay, I guess he became some beast, but I guess it was in the past. So at that point, when I was hearing the first time, I misunderstood. I'm like, why are we doing this thing that we don't even bump into? But because that's where I misunderstood, because you don't bump into it. So that's where I thought, oh, it was something of the past or a story, because you would think you would bump into it or have a fight with it.
I was really bummed that you didn't get to see it. Like, I want to see. I'm wondering if there's if they actually made art assets for it and then decide not to show it for something. But I'd love if someone hacked the game so you could move the camera around and see what it looked like.
Yeah.
But I really wanted to see what he looked like. I was a bit bummed by that, and it's hard. The first game came out so long ago that it's hard for me to give specifics why, but I remember really liking Ted Faro. I thought that was a really well done villain, and obviously he's built up through these kind of audio logs and holograms and stuff, because he's, well, presumably gone. Yeah. And so I still have some affection for that character. I just remember really enjoying him, though I couldn't give the specifics. And so Yeah, I was really disappointed that we didn't get to see him, but I loved that he had this very Egyptian themed pharaoh's, like just very digging into his name and this pharaoh's
Yeah,
tomb.
fits
So
with his character.
I liked the idea of that, but I think it didn't land for me. And then the other thing is that the leader of Alva's group, that I can't remember the name of, who becomes the CEO and he calls himself the reincarnation of Ted Faro. To me, he was just way too generic of a villain. He's just like every other villain in this game, unfortunately, just very generic and one note, and then he dies there and you don't really see him again. So, I mean, it didn't really have much impact for me because I'm like, I'm not too attached to this villain. He's not that interesting. It also just feels weird that Aloy has bad vibes on this guy, yet she's opening all these doors for him, getting him into this place. Like, I feel like Aloy would instead go ahead, get whatever pertinent info, and then maybe come back and decide what she wanted to share with them. So it felt weird to me that I'm kind of being forced to let them go through at the same rate I am. So once again, just felt like a bit weird thing from Aloy's character, and just didn't land for me as like a. And I wonder if that's why they did it. Is they know everyone loved Ted Faro from the first game? Let's bring him back. It'll be a huge twist. It'll hit people. But for me, it just didn't land, unfortunately.
Well, and I think that's one thing, unfortunately, where, and maybe that got me less interested in the story, where Aloy as a character we talked about last time made some questionable things even in the first half of the game. It's just that stuff just kind of makes her feel, I'm not going to be harsh and dumb, but just a little too naive for someone that's supposed to be in the sequel and that's gone through all this stuff. You know, it just always feels like sometimes she's doing these choices because the game needs her to, instead of like, why does the story need you to, you know? So I think and I think you're right about as far as the villains, they didn't make anyone too memorable. I still like the Zenith people, which we'll talk about later. I like the concept of them, but and especially because I think the boss battles, the final two, kind of give you something a little bit different than the first game. But yeah, it was. I think again, I guess it's a good thing for the people that create it, but the setting's more memorable than the story. So
yeah, definitely. Where do we want to go next? Let's talk about this mission. So there's another quest where they're kind of setting this up to get control of Hephaestus. You need to take over a couple cauldrons at the same time or something like that. And there's a lot of thought and effort gone into this plan to make it so that there's these diversions going on at the same time so the Zenith people don't find you. But then they just end up finding you anyway, and it's not really explained why. And I mean, I guess you could just like they just saw that there's an energy reading here, they went here, but it just felt weird to me. We spent so much time, like I don't know how many lines of dialogue there is that are specifically for let's create this diversion so they don't find us, but then they find you anyway. To me, that felt like really lazy, or maybe I was missing something, but it just felt like they didn't really ever explain that. And then they had like Aloy completely down, and then they just choose not to kill her because of course you're the character. Obviously they're not going to do it, but I felt like there wasn't really a reason why they didn't kill her. Instead, they kill Varl, and then they take Beta, and then, like, for some reason, Tilda helps you, but only after Varl is specifically killed. Like, that whole thing was very messy for me, and it made Varl's death, unfortunately, not as impactful as it probably should have been, just because I feel like they really fumbled the execution.
Well, we'll get into Tilda. That's a character all over.
That's a character,
yeah. I don't know. I'm very confused by the choices. So, yeah, I said earlier that I liked the death of a character, a.k.a. Varl, because at least it does give some stakes for going into the finale, plus now a third game. You kind of go, okay, well, anything could happen. You know, like I almost have the theory of, like, I wonder if Aloy's going to die, but she's going to be training Beta, so, like, you could take over Beta in the future. But so I agree with you where, again, I wasn't driving much with the story as far as not disliking it, but okay, this is all fine, stuff like that. Yeah, the Zenith stuff reminds me a lot of other things in the game where it's just lots of exposition or dialogue when really couldn't we kind of streamline this, or why do we have to do it this way? Just say they're going off somewhere. Just say we only have so little time, so let's get this done as fast as possible instead. Okay, we need a bunch of distractions, and then Zenith's not going to find you. And then, like you said, they do find you. So I actually kind of liked that. I don't know why. Maybe I misread the situation. I felt that the Eric guy from Zenith was not going to be the main baddie as far as the Zenith people, but he did end up, because you fight him at first. So I guess I liked that, because I was surprised, because I thought he was just going to be like the muscle, really, right? Yeah. And you fought him first. That's why I thought, okay, you're going to fight him, then you're going to fight these other people. The problem is the stuff like with Tilda, it gets very confusing where it's okay. She doesn't want to turn against you because she was apparently still like a good friends with Elizabeth, and she agreed with her, and she wants to find her ways. But then later on, when we get to the finale, and I don't care what it spoils, she like turn against you and you kill her. It's just.
And why didn't like Tilda save Beta in that scene in the cauldron as well? Like, there's not really a reason why she doesn't save Beta when she was perfectly capable, at least trying.
Yeah. Because the story needed Beta to be kidnapped. You know, that's kind of like the problem. Like, why did Alo blow up this village's wall? Because they needed the people. It's just there's just too many leaps there. As far as I guess they.
Man, I will say that wall thing. I could not stop thinking about it the whole time. It really, just
hurt.
tanks the character of Aloy. It is so bad. I am shocked they included that in the game. Like that honestly to me is like a just made it really hard to believe anything Aloy was doing and that she was a good person anymore or anything like that.
I'd love to. I should read some other reviews or spoiler cast because like I'm the same thing. When I booted it back up, I was just like, I don't know if anything can redeem that wall thing. You know, like, like it's just such a choice.
It's so bad.
And what I was hoping for, though, was maybe she was going to make more choices like that in the story, and they would maybe touch upon that she's just so desperate, she's making mistakes. But it wasn't that. It's just like Aloy's she's here, and she's doing these things, and she's just kind of a matter, like, of course, she's helping along, but even she's a matter of circumstance, where it's just like, Aloy's down, Varl's getting killed, Tilda's switching sides, Beta's getting kidnapped, and it's just like, hey, Aloy's gonna be down a little bit, so all this can set up the finale, and here we go. And again, I still like the Zenith people as far as an idea of like it gave a different set of powers and it gave us a different finale. So I still liked, which we'll get to, like the boss battles enough, because it was different than the first game, which was like it was very similar to what we kind of had in the middle of this game, where it's a huge creature and there's like a bunch of you fighting this person, right? And I remember how taxed it was. I actually found the battle for the first, who knows, maybe I don't know why it'd be any different. I feel like the first finale I had a tougher time with that one than I did this one. Maybe I just have more tools this game. But I think the story, it was. So it's funny because where we left off is like, okay, I have a clear mission, and then I feel like this last half gets like a little, or I'd say like the third act gets a little messy. Like as far as lots of twists, lots of things, we're introducing lots of new enemies coming up. So
yeah, one thing that I was always confused about, we talked about at some point up in the mountains, like Tilda, or what I thought was Tilda, is dead. Like one of the Zenith people is just dead in the snow, and it's like, I don't know. I guess that isn't Tilda, obviously, but it's also just another white woman with short blonde hair, or at least that's what I remember in my mind. So, what was going on there? Like, is it just another character who looks very similar? I guess is what we're supposed to believe.
And I still just even know like what was going on there in general. Like, why were they there in this specific spot? Like, it just it's so weird when you just walk up. It's like, oh, they're just fighting, and she's like, oh, I guess it's Zenith. Yeah, maybe it was a clone Dome. Maybe it was a clone of Tilda that they were working on.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, no, and I think this. I think it's kind of like maybe why I like those villains, but I don't love them. Is I think in concept they're good. It's just execution between not only the characters but the story. I actually think some of the stuff they give for the reason of why they're coming to Earth, I'm torn because it does feel very sequel baity, but I like the idea. Yeah. I just would have liked it better if that reason they came to Earth was dealt with in this game, because okay, we're getting this story conclusion right here, but it was not that.
That's a whole nother that's a whole nother thing. Now, I think at this point we might be going a bit out of order on the story stuff, because my notes are a bit more scattered.
Because I was going to say, don't you say, well, you have the choice. I can't remember her name. She's played by Angela Bassett. Yeah. What did you do? So you had a chance. You fight. You go face to face with her, and you get a chance to be vengeance, or you get a chance to try to recruit her. What did you do?
To me, it wasn't even a choice. I'm like, Aloy, the character that I know of Aloy, based on what they're giving me, would 100% kill this person right now. And so I killed her. I didn't even think about it for a second. I'm like, Aloy is a fucking killer. Of course she would kill this person who is just unanimously bad and awful and like also very hard to fight. So you got to do it. Take your shot. Kill her. Did you take a different route?
I did, because I told you, even when I was like going into the camp, because my Aloy from the first game was she's going to take down the creatures. She's not going to kill unless she has to, because there's only so much of human life left, right? But no, she's she's fucking Batman and BVS in this game now. But no, I was like, I'm still trying to steer her clear, and that's where I was liking the themes of, at the end we'll talk about Silence, or the idea of almost everyone's coming together for this big threat. So I was feeling that. I was like, okay, I'm gonna keep you alive now, because I did look up. Nothing much happens because obviously you just kill her here. Do you know what happens when you save her?
Well, no, I don't. She's dead in my game. She's in the sand.
So when all the stuff's popping off at the end there with Tilda, like when Beta gets kidnapped and everything,
when you go to their little island thing,
she just sacrifices herself and she dies anyways.
Oh my God, are you serious? That is so dumb. Because I was gonna say, I listened to a couple other reviews and everyone's like, oh yeah, of course I saved her. Like well, I just choked a bit. It wasn't even like a choice. Of course I saved her. And I was like, you know what's gonna happen is this character's gonna stick around and they're gonna be like, oh well, actually in the canon she actually lit. Like the canon ending is that like you kept her alive and she'll be back. But that's I don't know how I feel about that. It's harder. I didn't see the scene, so I can't know for sure. But to me, that seems a bit cheesy that they just kind of either way, her fate is doomed.
I wasn't a fan of that. I hate games that do that, where it's like you have a choice, but not really. You're still gonna go this way.
It's an illusion of choice, really. It's just postponing the inevitable. Yeah.
So and that's why I picked her. I'm like, I want her there for the final battle. Don't know what's gonna pop off here, and so she sacrifices herself, but it doesn't matter because in your story it still goes the same way. So she was destined for death.
Mm-hmm. A scene I did really enjoy is when Zoe and Aloy are just having a funeral for Varl. There's a reveal here that I don't know how I feel about, but at least that scene I thought was well shot, well acted. It was emotional. The setting, like the visuals of it with the sunset and whatnot, very beautiful scene. And I feel like to me that kind of gave me the Varl death scene that I needed. It was a bit more closure for the character. I guess, how did you didn't really explicitly say how you feel about Varl's death, or maybe you talked about that scene, but how do you feel about him, and how do you feel about this twist that he has a little Varl out there hanging out with inside Zoe? That's a weird way for me to word that, but you get it.
Because I thought the twist that she was pregnant, not that he has a kid out there. That's why he's that's a classic storytelling trope, right? Character A dies, but they have a.
That's the thing. It just felt like, I've seen this 100 times.
What would have been fun, would have been great if we had the choice somehow in the story also who would have died, Zoe or Varl. That could have been fun, but again, it seems like they don't want to commit to that. I didn't have a problem with it. It is like a little messy how it's done, but I liked Varl enough. I think they were smart to make him have the love interest of be more in love with Zoe in this, because you do feel a bit more, grief, because she lost him and now she's pregnant, so she really lost him. So I did like it in general. I liked, I do like when characters die, even if they're ones you like, because it's a bummer, but it does give stakes to the story. So the next time, like I said, when you're going in the final battle, you could lose Beta, you could lose somebody because you just lost Varl, who was a important side character. I like the way the story was going, I actually was not picking anybody to die, to be honest. Like one of our main people, I thought, okay, if we are kind of veering towards this might be more cliffhanger and we're gonna have more to do. And plus, I think the last game, I think you lost your father figure character, but most your close people you kind of kept. I think so. So I think it was a smart move to do, unfortunately, for Varl.
Let's skip ahead to the heist. I just love it because it's a good heist mission. When you're setting up this plan to take out the Zeniths, and I like that there's some choice here in terms of you can do more combat or you can sneak around if you are wanting to. Yeah, I think the setting is great. With obviously it's the landscape and whatnot is similar to the other areas we've seen in the game, but their structures, their buildings are unique. We haven't seen anything like that before. So that was cool. I know we're not big Aaron fans on the cast here, but I like that you go through that sequence with him, and he's kind of your companion as you're sneaking around. Because I feel like they didn't really get any moments together in the game. Like he's just kind of chilling there and
he's just
drinking alcohol and playing Machine Strike and making jokes here or there. So I like that they went through that together. I thought that was a fun pairing, and it made sense from a story perspective. And then there's, of course, some boss fights and stuff. But yeah, that whole heist mission, I will say, until maybe some of the ending stuff with those two boss fights you do, everything leading up to that, I really liked. And I love that you can just kind of, you'd think, oh man, you're going to do some big battle here against a bunch of machines. But no, you feel like you have this power element where Beta taps in, starts creating these machines, and they do all the hard work for you. Yeah. I really liked that. I thought that was a fun reprieve. You just get to do some boss fights and traversal instead, and you don't have to fight these machines again. And I liked that. It kind of surprised me. It also felt, because of that, different than the Battle Meridian from the first game, where you just battle after battle, tons of machines.
Yes.
You kind of just get to skip past that stuff. So overall, I quite like this finale. If it weren't for a couple of the story things that make it fall flat.
Well, yeah, you brought it up with Beta and the machines. I liked that the Zenith people at one point thought the machine, like, it was going to go the other way, like it wasn't going to hurt them, and then when it, like, they're like laughing and like, oh yeah, and then when it turns around on them, it's like, oh no, man.
Silence sure is taking his sweet fucking time sitting on that cliff, like, to get everything set up.
Classic Silence, that's what he does. He beats his own drum. But no, I like this because we've had it a few times. I remember the first game when it was probably the middle portion, where right when you learn you're a clone, but you go into like a facility for the first time, like, oh, you're seeing technology other than the machines. And then in this game, you kind of had that one earlier on when you had like the factory and stuff. So anytime, but those were like darker, dingier. Hey, these are electronic places, technology, but some years have passed, right? Or it's like a bunker, so it hasn't been well kept. But this is like some sleekness going on. It's nice. There's some bright whites and stuff. It feels very, I don't know, like kind of something you'd see in Prometheus before you left the ship, as far as like where the rich people are hanging out and stuff like that. And that makes sense because, like, to me, everything about this felt like it fit with the Zenith people and what they looked a lot cleaner and sleeker and smoother. They looked from a different type of sci-fi game. And I did like that, where I don't think the boss battles in particular with Eric and what are they called? Spectres again, or Spectals? What are they?
Spectres, yeah.
Spectre, yeah. I don't think they are reinventing the wheel. I don't think they are fantastic, but I like the idea of almost having two mini boss battles instead of what you said before, where it's just, okay, because like, what are you going to do? You can't just do that big fight and machine thing again. And I like that this one is a bit more personal because it's a bit more like one-on-one. The last game, it was cool to have your people with you because you needed them to fight this big machine, but I like that it was pretty much Aloy versus these things. So yeah, I liked, again, the set piece. I think some of the story beats, kind of like you are, head scratching, oh, I wish we weren't going this way. And again, I don't even think they're super bad. It's just maybe somebody was hoping the story was going to be somewhat complete, and if we got a third game, maybe it'd be a new story. But again, I like that there was a real feeling of, okay, you got to get Beta with Silence coming back. To me, it was this, okay, we all got to band together now and take up, this is our last shot, which it really wasn't the last shot because there's something more coming. But I did like the layout of it. And again, the settings and the areas, the graphics, that's the highlight of it. So
yeah, it did feel very Final Battle-y.
Yes,
the Eric boss fight, for me, it's fine. It is something different. I will give you that, but I think for me, strategy wise, like, I feel like I just turned my brain off completely. Like, I was just dodging around, firing some arrows, popping some health potions. Like, it wasn't really that captivating.
No.
Not a memorable fight in any way. And also, they never gave that character any sort of intrigue in terms of his personality. So I also just wasn't invested. Like, oh, I finally get to fight this guy again. So that one felt...
He killed Varl, though. He killed Varl. It was vengeance you're coming back for, right? Revenge.
Yeah, true. I think, once again, the Varl, the death, since it didn't land for me so much, this one didn't either. But it was fine. I think the Tilda one is more interesting mechanically, though.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the Eric one was good because I think the fun dynamic of the last time you could just dodge and shoot the stuff, so that was fun. And I think maybe they could have leaned more into him killing Varl, though. He could have been a bit more of a nastier character, really make you feel like, okay, screw this guy, like, I'm gonna kill him. I'm gonna do what I did to that wall, I'm gonna bring him down. But but again, it's a little different because it doesn't reinvent the wheel, but at least it's something, because you can only fight the dinosaurs so many times, right? So but they could have done a little better with it. So
yeah. As for the Tilda boss fight, I think it mechanically was interesting. It was I don't know. I didn't have that much trouble with it. I did die once, and it was pretty much because I was at full health, and she just did some attack that literally insta-killed me. So I was maybe a bit salty about that because I was like maybe halfway through the fight, and then I was like, oh, I got to do this again from the start. I think it was. Once again, it wasn't really that mechanically interesting to me. Unfortunately, it was fine though. It was fine. It's not the big final boss battle that I was hoping for, but it wasn't awful. And I think maybe the more interesting thing there is the story beats. But in terms of the mechanics of the boss fight, it was okay.
I think I agree with you, so I won't repeat much there. But I think that's the problem where you said it's more about the story beats, and that's where it's like for you, me, who didn't love the story beats, that's the tough thing, right? Like I would compare that to Last of Us, where it's like you may get certain final things or boss things, but it's supposed to be because the story's so good and gripping, which at times the Last of It is. That makes it better, right? Because it's like you're pretty much doing this action beat to progress the story, so you can get to the next story beat. Where this, like, it's the next story beats are kind of fine to disappointing, so that's where these boss battles are fine and then the story beats are fine. That's where it just kind of goes it's all just fine, it's all just meh. And meh sounds maybe a harsh word to say it, but it's one of these where I appreciate what they're going for, but again, it looks pretty, that's the best thing.
And so one of my critiques of Aloy as a person, not even talking about just like Aloy and who she is she's just way too trusting. I talked about this, I think in our 3-hour long review. Maybe I talked about it 5 years ago. But like particularly with Silence, for me, it's weird. And even here in the finale, it's like Silence has proved time and again that he is a piece of garbage and that he doesn't really care about anyone except himself. And yet Aloy just kind of lets him back on the team, like, he's good now, don't worry. And for me, it just was with Tilda, like, I could just smell it from a mile away the first time I saw the character. I'm like, okay, she's buddying up with me now. She's sharing some information. She's clearly helping me in some way. She did also let Beta get stolen and let Varl die, so not too happy about that. But just the whole time, I just knew there was going to be a twist when this character turns bad. It was very obvious to me, and it felt like, man, Aloy, why are you so trusting? You have... like, that's caused so much problems for you, is just accepting these people. And this one is clearly very evil in just the way she talks and what her ulterior motives are. So, I don't know. To me, that was a bit weak. And I just, like, man, I just don't love Aloy anymore. It's sad. I think she's decent. But I just don't love the character as much as I did after the end of Zero Dawn. And that's a bit of a bummer, just in an overall way.
Like, I'd be hyped if we did get PlayStation All-Stars and she's in there.
Yeah.
Great.
I'm excited to play her there. Yeah. She's on the cover. She's a big character for the game. But just in terms of the actual story, I feel like they really fumbled who the character is this time around. And that sucks.
Yeah, and I guess it's just a mini repeat as to say in the first review that we did, like you were talking about Silence. It's the same way I compare this game to, which is to me a better version, where with Last of Us 2, you had that with a character like Ellie where she's progressively getting worse, but it's a conscious decision of, hey, this person's making a lot of mistakes, and or you can just look at what life has done to her. This is Aloy, like I said, it's it feels like she's kind of a bully, which we talk about sometimes, but then it's kind of the naivety of, trust this person. It doesn't feel like there's been much growth for the character. It feels like she's regress, if anything. The Silence thing, I do think, luckily for you, if we play a third one, I think he will be good. I think he's going to stay on the good side. I just hated how convoluted it was to get here. Well, in the first game, you know what I was doing? I actually got Hades so I could do this and find out where this ship was going. And then I wanted to find out if I could get to the ship. But then I found out about Nemesis. And then I came back to here to tell you about Nemesis. And you know what? I've decided to fight for Earth. It was just like, man, and I get it. But just like, this guy has been on quite a journey. And the thing is, I think there's better ways to show it, but because he's a character who's off screen, it's just him telling you all this. And again, everything from the Nemesis storyline feels, and him, Silence 2, feels very just like, okay, let's save this, add it on for a third. And that feels rushed for a game that doesn't feel necessarily long, but it's not a short game. You could have had, like, here's the thing. They try to make it sound like this Nemesis thing has maybe been there the whole time, or it's going to be coming. But the thing is, Silence doesn't hint about it at all. You would think that they could have maybe, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe somebody would point that out, and I'm always open to being wrong as far as if there's some proof. But it just feels like Silence had all this information because, again, at the end of the game, they needed him to have it. So it's just, here we go. This is what I'm doing. This is why I have been gone all these days. I figured it all out, and I'm here. But the thing is, like, they try to make him seem like he's smarter, and it's like, he figured it all out. But he's figuring it out all at the same time that you already know the information, so it doesn't come across as a big reveal. Not necessarily it was. It's just, I almost wonder if that character would have just been better to get killed off in this game, Silence. I was like, I like the character enough, but maybe there is a fun dynamic though in the third one to play with. Can she really trust him, and is he a good guy? But hopefully they actually play that up, and it's not just Aloy being like, well, he's with us now. And I don't know what you're gonna get, because I feel like the writing of the character has been very inconsistent for this game. And yeah, I think I agree with you where I do like her a lot less in the first game. That's kind of a bummer. So, and not in an intentional way where it's like, oh, they made a choice. I just feel like they are pretty laxative on deciding what they want Aloy to be in this game.
Yeah. And then with Tilda, there is a lot of story stuff going on here. There's one element to it where it's clear that her and Elizabeth, or she has like they shared some sort of relationship, whether it's whether it was a love or just like a close friendship. It's not exactly clear. Although I think it was more romantic would be my guess. And I like that as an addition, because it's not, they don't really go too deep into it, and maybe you could critique it for wanting a bit more answers or something, but I liked that it was kind of just this ambiguous thing. It added this creepiness to the character where she's kind of preying on Aloy and Beta to an extent.
Yes.
Because she had love for obviously like their clone. Like, it makes sense, but it adds this kind of sliminess to the character. I think that gave her some dynamic. So I thought that was a great addition, and I don't think I needed too much more details than what they gave, and keeping it slightly ambiguous was a good enough for me.
Yeah, I think that's always fun when you have a character of why you're so obsessed or why do you want these two or care about these two, and there's kind of an underlining backstory that we got to learn later. But at that time, I think it does make that stuff better. And like you said, almost a little creepy. We're like, okay, this is an odd thing. Like, I feel like this is something you should be straight up about. Like, hey, I had a relationship and you've been cloned, and you could almost look at that person that has like a daughter, but you don't necessarily know. So I think it adds some things to Tilda as well, some dynamics to make her a little bit more interesting, where the rest of the Zenith people were not at all. They're just there. They're just there to save their lives, right? Because their planet got destroyed, so they're coming back. So yeah, I liked Tilda enough. Ask me again though in 6 months and see how much I remember.
Yeah. Yeah. I to comment on, like, I think Regala is maybe the most interesting villain in the game for me, and she's really not that great either. Like, just not that interesting.
Yeah. She could have been great. I thought we were building up, and And she's not a villain in my game. She's a hero, Dylan. She saved my life. They set her
up. Yeah, exactly. They set her up to be like terrifying, and I think they did a good job with that. And then just quickly, like, we talked about this guy Travis Tate early on. He was kind of set up, and like, whatever happened to him, like, I don't think he ever got any sort of conclusion. They just kind of forgot about him and went into these other characters, and I think they maybe spread a bit too thin on the villains, and they could have honed in on some of the ones they had and gave them some more interesting scenes rather than adding more that were just all in the same level of uninteresting, just kind of puddles in terms of their depth.
It was super strange because I was thinking about you the whole time I was playing when we got a hologram, because you're like, I wonder if we're going to see him again, And every time I got a hologram, I'm like, oh, here we go. And we never did. I was fine because I didn't like the character, but at the same time, I'm not fine because, like you said, they introduced a lot of elements. And even Regala, it's just, I almost think that they could have saved some of the Zenith people almost for the third game. You could have hinted, but like, if you had Tate with doing something, you could have made Regala bigger. So especially they were really... And I think there's a way maybe they would have felt like it's not big enough. I wonder if you could have had this game more about, because there's lots of tribes not trusting each other or fighting. I wonder if you could have made it more about, like, okay, the machines are still here, there's still danger, and Aloy's working on getting rid of them, but it is much more of a human issue than it is the grand scheme. And then the third one is more of a grand scheme. It just seems like we got this game, which was grand scheme, the Zenith people showing up, there's this big thing going to happen, and now it's like, okay, there's going to be even bigger thing coming, and it's like, all right. And yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head that they spread themselves too thin with maybe the character. Maybe Tay comes back in the third one with some stuff.
Yeah.
But,
I think I'd be surprised if he wasn't, like, in some way, even if it's a small thing.
Yeah.
It would be weird if they just never talk about him again. Okay, Nemesis. Nemesis is this death ball AI that is all of their brains plus every brain ever, I guess, that's turned into, I don't know what, some ball of electricity, black hole kind of thing, hurtling.
It's insta-death is pretty much what it is.
Instant death. Yeah. Hurtling towards Earth. So I gotta be honest. So this was happening, and I don't know. It's fine, I guess. Like it did feel like I knew immediately. I'm like, okay, well, this is gonna be like the third game. We'll go into this. But to me, there was this moment where they're setting up that there's like the spaceship, and we can escape, and we can continue life on another planet. And Silence is all down to do it. He's almost got his foot in the cockpit. He's ready to go. But then we don't. Alo's like, no, we gotta defend what's here. We gotta defend our Earth that we care so much about. And honestly, to me, at first I was like, yeah, I'm just not vibing this game too much. Like, I don't know if I'm super excited for the third game in the trilogy down the road. But when it was like, shit, we're gonna go to space to another planet, I was like, fuck yes, I cannot wait. That sounds amazing. But then, no, it's not. That's not what the third game's gonna be. We're gonna go to Alabama or some other random place in the States.
Rutland.
And yeah, I'm gonna go to Rutland up to Canada. I'd be down for that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So yeah, that really took the wind out of my sails in the ending. So that's a bit of a bummer. I would have loved to see this game taken to space. Like, it's already gotten so weird and crazy with the Zenith and stuff. Like, double down. Let's go to some other random new planet, and there's no machines there. There's some other crazy beasts that we're fighting. I don't know what the story would be, but I was a hell of a lot more interested in that than what we're gonna get in this third game here, I think.
Well, and what's interesting, because it's funny, I thought we were 100% going that way, because remember when we were talking about the Zenith in the first review, I'm like, oh, well, this opens up that idea that we could travel to space and different planets. And I thought, oh, for sure, even... Like, what is frustrating is that, like you said, they just shut it down of like, no, we're staying on Earth. Even if, let's say, primarily the most game was on Earth, but at some point you had to do a mission where you go to space. Let's say you grab something, you come back to Earth, and maybe they will still do that. Maybe there's a chance where they look into something and go, okay, the only way we can save Earth is we got to pick up this one item from a planet that's been destroyed, and then you come back. I hope that is the case, but then being like, no, we're going to stay on Earth. Oh, that's a perfect opportunity right there to change it up a little. I get it. We talk about the same way with Spider-Man, right? Where it's like you have a certain engine and you can rebuild. But even if it to me was one set piece, and plus the marketing, Aloy in a spaceship or on a different planet right there, that's so good. But who knows? I don't even want to prophesize this. Maybe it's something that's going to happen in a fourth game or something. But
oh man, yeah.
I thought for sure we're going to space. I thought the same thing. Like, oh, this is what a great ending. Even if the first first act of the next game was space and you got to come back to Earth, like even anything. So I'm hoping that may happen, but yeah, it's one of these things where it's just they give some of the examples of what it is, but it just feels like a giant generic weapon. You know, it just feels like the Death Star of there's this huge thing coming and we can't stop. It's going to destroy Earth. And obviously that'll be the third game. How they're going to destroy it, what they're going to do. I know Cylon says he has like ideas or stuff like that. So it's like, all right, but it's just, I feel like this could be even maybe worse than the Zenith deal, because at least there's some human interaction. You have like a boss battle of it. You have Tilda, who has some personal connection. What personal connection do you have with just this generic thing, like rocketing towards the Earth? So that's why I guess it
like contains the thoughts of people we know, so you can have some element there where like Elizabeth is part of that ball, right? So
yeah,
maybe they dig into that, I guess.
Oh, and I guarantee you, please.
But I don't think that ball is coming to chat. I think that ball is coming to just destroy Earth. So I don't know.
If it is, why do I feel like Elizabeth all this time was actually a bad person, or like who knows? I hope not. But yeah, that's what I mean. Like, what do you do with this ball? Like, what are you gonna do? So maybe there's still a chance we do go to space. Maybe there is. Maybe they just didn't want to do that here. But I don't know.
I just think even like in the gameplay front, I like seeing the new machines and whatnot, but I don't think a third game of fighting the same machines in the same way with a couple new tools is going to do it for me. Even if there's some cool additions, like, they dig into the riding them and, using them as companions and whatnot. I just don't know if that's going to be super captivating. Even if they add more types, I feel like their best ideas are behind them at this point, maybe. And that's why it could have been cool if we were fighting some other kinds of beasts, then you could really get creative with what you got on this other planet. So yeah, I just feeling deflated overall. It's unfortunate, and I think this episode more than the last one has been just very negative, and I apologize for that if you're a big fan of the game and you were hoping we liked it more than we do. But I think that's just where I'm at with the story. Unfortunately, it's like anything I did like, any scene, any mission, any moment had some caveat to it that to me took my disappointment down or took my hype down, and it's unfortunate because that was like the first half was solid enough with just a few issues, but then it really just kind of got worse, unfortunately, in the second half, and the gameplay didn't shock me in any kind of new and innovative ways. So
I think
that's where I'm at.
I'll say the same thing. It's not so much of like disliking it, it's just more disappointing because you just wanted to kind of kick that second gear. I think that's why we sound more deflated, because like we love the first one. We really want to love this one. And I want to be in a place where I really want to buy the third one. I think it's something I may dabble in, but it's not, I don't know if it'd be day one. And I think that's the thing where it's still, I'm not going to look at this where people think we're negative. This is not like, oh, this was awful. One of the worst thing they ever did, a way to waste time. No, I enjoyed it enough. I had some fun. It's still a very well made, crafted game and parts and things like that. There's just a few maybe stumbles along the way that unfortunately kind of maybe got me off the path of no return, right? The path of I don't know if I need to be, and you know what, that happens with every franchise, you know, and that could be a great thing down the line. You know, there's thousands to millions of people probably that's to happen with God of War, right? Where eventually just didn't click for me anymore and they went away, and then you got a new series. And I'm not saying they need to jump 20 years in Aloy, be an older woman with a child. I just mean that maybe when the third one comes around, there will be a hook that Dale and I will see. Go, okay, this would be interesting time. Maybe they do go to space in that first trailer. They're like, okay, this could be something exciting. But it's just where they kind of left us right now. I'm happy to kind of close the door on it because then I don't have to, you know, because I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but if it is if the third game is Aloy's on Earth and there's a big ball coming, I'm going to tell you that she's going to beat the big ball and everything's going to be A-okay, you know, and
someone Alva is gonna die or something, and that's gonna be her emotional beat. And
I feel like it's a less interesting kind of ending cliffhanger than Cylon's was, even though it was a postscript. That was still a character he had history with, and it's like, what's he up to? Like I said, I don't really care about generic weapon A. That's the case in movies, superhero movies, comic books. You know, like when you get just like this huge unstoppable things coming, there's not much you can do other than, oh, we've created this device and you got to catch it or something or destroy it. So
yeah.
But it was fun going back. I still had some good times with the game. I am definitely now going to get back to some maybe strikers after at some point. I want to try and do that. But strikers. Or machine strike. Sorry, I should say that. Yeah, machine strike. But it's kind of disappointing, but it was still fun to talk about nonetheless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Any final thoughts here on the game, or are you good to go? Do you want to put a number on this? Are you doing a number for this one?
I would be like a 7. I think it's one of these things when you talk about, it's like IGN used to do that too when they had their score and they'd be like this different divisions. There's certain divisions where I'd be like, oh, this is a 10 as far as visuals and stuff like that.
Sure.
Yeah, and stuff like the combat is still relatively great from the last game. It's just not much new to it. Even though I will say I felt like the hair dynamics in this one, the hair was a lot more going through the body in places. It took me out of it a lot. Where she has this flowing hair, but it was always kind of in and out. But no, at the end of the day, this is kind of like anytime this happens with a movie or a TV show where I am disappointed, but it hasn't ruined Horizon where I look back at first game like, oh man, like I still enjoyed this experience. It's still a really good game. It's still not the whole time. I still had enjoyment playing it. Yeah, there's maybe stuff like Elden Ring where I wanted to get back to, but it's still a really good game. It's still something that I know people have worked hard on, and it's still something where I think back when I think back to the PS4 era, Horizon's still going to come up as a great experience. Is the sequel that same a great experience? No, but sometimes that just happens, right? Like I said, that same thing in the movie. Not always the sequel's as great or better than the movie. You go, well, that first one was still great, and the second one was decent. You know, stumbled a little bit, but I'll still keep my eye on the third, see what they're doing, and see what people say about it. But if this is it for me in Horizon, it provided me with at least one really great game that was a game of a generation maybe for me as far as like that PS4, as far as if there's like a top 5 list, it was probably in there and stuff, and very creative world. So
I agree. It's easy. Yeah, we're just in a very similar spot on this game in general. So
yeah,
I'll echo what you said there. But yeah, that's going to do it for Horizon. I don't think we'll be talking about this game again. It'll come up. Game of the Year discussions, it'll come up somewhere, whether it's categories or maybe it'll make it in my top 10 at the end of the year. Who knows? But yeah, this has been fun going through these games.
I'm gonna say it's not. I feel like there's gonna be enough games that's gonna bump it out of that list. I think.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. The 2 games that came out after it or since then have already kind of eclipsed it for me. But yeah, no, I'm sure it'll come up in some respect. So we'll talk about it then. And I think it might be a few weeks before you're back on Sidequest, but it's been fun having you a lot here in this last month. And we'll see you guys next week for me and Taylor. We're talking about Tunic and some other video games. We got you covered. So yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for joining us, and have a good one. Bye.